to the session. As we all know, launching a new enterprise can be a daunting task. Among the hundreds of both large and small requirements and taskings in enterprise risk, cybersecurity and the need to protect an organization's digital assets looms large. When done safely and securely, cloud adoption can help to answer many of the cybersecurity risk challenges for new organizations. During this session, we have the opportunity to hear directly from Dr. Steve Arendt, Director and Principal Architect of the Advanced Technology Group from Cable Labs. Steve has had a crucial role in the launch of Gridmetrics, and we will spend the next several minutes exploring some challenges and provide some practical advice to new startups on how to evaluate the use of the cloud and what benefits may occur through cloud adoption. So Steve, welcome to the stage, welcome to the session. How about you introduce yourself for a couple of minutes here to the audience?
Thanks, MK. I'm glad to be here. So as you mentioned, I'm a director and principal architect at Cable Labs. Prior to that, I was a physicist many years ago, and then started a software consulting company. And then about 5 years ago, joined Cable Labs. More recently, I've been involved in a very exciting venture called Gridmetrics, which is essentially a startup within Cable Labs that I would like to talk to you about today.
Sure. Why don't we start there? Tell us a little bit about Gridmetrics.
Sure. Might be easiest to show you. So let me show you a map. It turns out, as we're recording this, it's the day after Hurricane Ian has hit Florida. And what you're looking at is a map of power outages throughout Florida as a result of the hurricane. The red areas indicate power outage. The green areas indicate no power outage. So this is the sort of thing we do at Gridmetrics. We collect information about the electric power grid, both status and voltage, and we display it and analyze it for various consumers. Let me show you a few more examples of how we disseminate our data. Suppose you're a county manager and you want to know the status of power outages in your county. What you're looking at now is an emailed map that we automatically produce every time power outages within a county exceed a certain level. You sign up for this service, this map gets emailed to you automatically so that you can monitor the state of your county. One more example. We produce a daily report that we call the Gridcon Report, which essentially measures the health of the grid throughout the nation and subregions of the nation for the previous day. It details the number of outages in regions, the stability, the quality of the power, and then we give it an overall metric from 1 to 5. So this way you can get a nice snapshot of the overall situation in the nation. And this sort of thing would be useful if you're monitoring different subregions of the nation or you're involved in emergency response teams, something like that. So that's just kind of a flavor of what we do.
Excellent. So I can clearly see the value of the resource that you're providing. What got you and the team started on the pathway of grid measurement?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Several years ago, we realized that, so I should back up before I answer that. Cable Labs is an R&D lab for the cable television industry. So our members are the cable television companies of the United States and other countries. So essentially, we spend a lot of time studying the broadband internet and wired and wireless networks. So a few years ago, we realized that much of the hardware that's out in the field to support the cable network has UPSs, uninterruptible power supplies. These power supplies have the ability to measure incoming grid power, and they also have a network connection. So we could query them and ask them, hey, what's the voltage and the grid status where you are? We started down this path, we found that it worked, and here we are 4 years later. Let me show you this slide. 4 years later, we have 300,000 of these sensors that we monitor every 1 to 5 minutes out in the nation. And roughly half the population of the US is within a kilometer of one of our sensors. So it's been quite a ride, and we've been just growing like crazy, and we'll continue to grow.
So you mentioned one of the use cases that's pretty viable in terms of emergency response for this kind of information. What other kinds of use cases might employ or look for and seek this kind of information and data?
Yeah, so anyone who wants situational awareness would be a potential user of the data. Suppose you're a corporation that has outlets throughout the country. You would want to measure, or rather monitor, the status of the power grid where your outlets are. Suppose you're an insurance company and you want to verify that power outages that were represented in claims actually occurred, things like that. So there's lots of sorts of applications where regional power data is useful.
Excellent. So one of the reasons that we invited you guys to be a part of this effort was that you seem to get some use out of a program that we call Google for Startups Cloud Program. Tell us a little bit about how that program aided in helping to launch this endeavor.
When we first started down this path, everything was homegrown. We ran off servers that were within our building. That worked until it didn't. So now that we have 300,000 sensors, that's obviously far too many to do a homegrown solution. So a few years ago, we switched to GCP, and we became a member of the Google Cloud for Startups program. When we started that effort, none of us were really cloud people. We're software engineers and network people. And so Google provided us with a great deal of help, access to support engineers to get us going, advice, things like that. Really got us off the ground. And here we are. At this point, it's a very mature cloud setup. We've got everything highly automated. It practically runs itself at this point.
So one of the things that I do here in my role at Google is I have conversations with lots of our customers around cybersecurity risk to enterprise, and also concerns that organizations may have in terms of moving their enterprise workloads and processes to the cloud. So one of the challenges is just the continually changing environment around cybersecurity. We know that many organizations today are growing exponentially. So you touched upon one of the clear benefits of cloud adoption, the ability to scale robustly and resiliently in terms of business operations as things change in the business environment. And so that's part of the conversation. Part of the thing I think that initiates those conversations is organizations are looking at ways to scale while at the same time protect their digital assets. And so cybersecurity is a part of nearly every conversation that we have with our customers as they look at cloud adoption from an infrastructure standpoint. But there's also some clear benefits, in fact, many clear benefits in the cybersecurity lanes of looking at cloud adoption as a place to create, or as we say now, born in the cloud, new organizations and how they should look at cloud adoption as a potential option. Steve, that you and the team have security concerns around the data that you were collecting, how you were going to store it, and then subsequently present the data.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we're required by our data suppliers to go through security audits and implement various cybersecurity measures. For us, though, to be clear, cybersecurity is somewhat of a distraction. We're interested in electric grid data. Cybersecurity is a necessary evil. We have to implement it. And so it's the sort of thing we just want to go and have it done and be on our way and onto our mission of electric power data. So luckily, using GCP, we get many of the security features as part of the setup. So, for example, we're required to encrypt our data both at rest and on the fly, and GCP gives us tools to do that. We use GSUtil to transfer data; it's encrypted on the fly, and we use storage buckets and BigQuery to store it, where it's encrypted at rest. Other things we take advantage of, we're required to use the principle of least access for access to the data. And so GCP's identity and access management allows us in a very granular way to dial in access to individual subsets of the data so that we can satisfy the principle of least access. Those are just a few examples.
Yeah, I'm glad you hit on those. Much of what you identified or mentioned are components of things that we call security by default, or security that's built into the feature sets for the customers who onboard into GCP. But you also touched upon a granular issue like identity and access management, which is a core component of any cybersecurity apparatus, at least a functioning one of a large-scale enterprise. And so the ability to provide IAM features at a granular level for organizations and enterprises that onboard into GCP are some of the clear benefits. The other thing that I'll add to this is that one of the challenges organizations have as they begin to scale and grow as this idea of creating organizational policies, security policies, that they want to flow through the rest of the organization. And so one of the clear benefits is the idea that as an organization on GCP, once you build in those policies at the top organizational level, all of the subsequent organizations, projects, and workloads that fall under that main organizational folder subsequently adopt the additional features that have been identified as policy for the wider enterprise. This can be extremely helpful in terms of organizations that then stand up separate business units internally as they begin to scale and grow. And you don't want those new units creating their own policies that then somehow contradict what's been established by the larger enterprise. So there's a ton involved there. Steve, can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the cost factors that were involved in selection of GCP?
Yeah, absolutely. As part of a startup, the two things that are always in short supply are time and money. And so anything that could save cash or save time is a useful thing. So the security aspects of GCP do both. Because most of the security is built in, there's no need for us to hire special security engineers. It's already there. And because it's already there, we also don't have to spend any time implementing it. We just get it automatically by default. So off we go onto our main mission of electric power data. And as you said, once we've built it in, which we did very early in our process, there's no more to think about. We've got our security policy written, we've got it all implemented, and we're done. We can go on without being distracted by cybersecurity, but still secure in the knowledge that we're protected from risks.
So, Steve, what you're describing here, I think, is part of the challenge and lift as new organizations build themselves out. Oftentimes, there's a hesitation to bring on board security practitioners and security professionals to help scale and grow along with the organization. And then the founders are left determining and building out a security footprint that essentially begins to grow with the organization. And so leaning on and leaning in on a cloud service provider like Google Cloud, in this instance, is actually helping the organization to scale its security apparatus in a pace that's commensurate with the growth of the enterprise. And so Steve, I think, indicated that it was really super easy for them. There is certainly a period of enablement that happens with our customers where, as long as they're exposed to and understand the granular controls and the capabilities that are available to them, and we are, as an organization, putting our customers in the best position possible to avail themselves of these tools, products, and features, it really makes the journey a good one, as long as it's done safely and securely. And I think that the examples that Steve has provided were exceptional in terms of outlining how an organization can get clear benefit that allows the organization to scale, grow, and then change over time. Steve, what final piece of advice might you have for others in the startup lanes in terms of looking at cloud adoption as they create these new and versioning enterprises?
I would say, even as a software engineer, the cloud can be a complicated and daunting place to go. So I would say, first, carefully consider the benefits you want to get out of moving into the cloud. It could be the security aspects we talked about today. It could be saving money on IT administration. It could be easy data storage in the cloud. Once you've kind of gotten clear on what it is you're after, be brave, go ahead, jump in, start simple, and then refine and iterate from there.
I love those final words, be brave and jump in. To wrap up, in modern day business, the protection of your digital assets and your digital wealth is a major area of risk management for the enterprise. In this session, we've presented you with some of the ways organizations are relying on Google Cloud to take new and innovative approaches to the management of their data and cybersecurity risk. I want to thank my guest, Dr. Steve Arendt, for joining us for this important discussion, and thank each of you for joining in on this session of Next 22. We hope that you've enjoyed it.